Hey, this is Brett, and you're watching Brett and Some Books. I wanted to make a video to uh, kind of give a little bit of analysis on Slaughterhouse Five and how it relates to reality. So, you can learn more about the history of war journalism in The First Casualty, which is another book that I have been reading. There's a pretty big body on right now under that playlist, The First Casualty by Philip Knightley. I'll be reading more of that, but I'm not sure if it'll be right away because that book was updated a few times at least from the edition that I have. So before I get into the Korean War, which is next on that, um, I'm going to see if I can find more up-to-date text and pick that up so that when I keep going that we can cover some more relevant or recent things. Um, but that is beside the point. Um, One of the things that you learn about war correspondent his war journalism history is that the reporters had to go through censors, and then those uh, reports, whatever was left, had to go through staff copywriters, because like uh, during the Boer War or wars up until the First World War, um, you were pretty much limited to telegraphs for any communication. And so, due to the very expensive telegraph rates, people would have to write back from the front lines in code, kind of. And so, once the copywriters interpreted to the best of their ability at the press headquarters, respectively, um, they had to go through editors before finally being printed. It could take 2 or 3 weeks before a report was printed from having been sent. And a lot of the journalists uh, would laugh at how the report that was accredited to them looked because it was nothing like what they had written. Um, so there are significant issues, even into the Second World War, where we had television and um, radio reporting available as well. Um, However, the what made it onto television, um, well, it wasn't even really television then. It was newsreels at the movie theaters, and the newsreels had to go through the U.S. Army. I have to look up what the proper name was, but had to go through the censors before it could be shown to the American moviegoer in public. And so, due to the heavy censorship, things like the Dresden bombing, which was an atrocity taken on by the Allied forces against Germans in Nazi Germany, um, where there was bombing the night before, very heavy bombing. I think that was from English bombers, and then the next day, American fighter jets came by with strafing fire to kill the remaining people. There was not supposed to be any survivors. So, prisoners of war that survived um, didn't even have their experiences validated by an American knowledge and proper understanding of what happened in places like Dresden or in other cases. And one of the people who survived as an American prisoner of war in German custody was Kurt Vonnegut. And he later went on to write Slaughterhouse Five, which was to express and report his experiences and his feelings about life in relation to the bombing of Dresden. And he very artfully illustrates the experience of people with PTSD or other trauma-related anxiety disorders, where there's a triggering event and then the sequence of time is broken. So in this case, the protagonist would experience some kind of trauma, or his wife would die, or he would be the person that survived in the hospital, in the airplane, to wake up in the hospital, having just been in a hospital in Germany before that while he was in a comatose state. Any of those times that are in between clear-cut reality and clear-cut fantasy are trigger spots for people with PTSD sometimes. And it explains the sensation of a flashback more accurately and less Hollywood-like. So I really appreciated that about the book. I'm going to be reading more Kurt Vonnegut coming up. It looks like people enjoy fiction more than nonfiction. I'm still going to keep doing both. And I really like doing history because I missed out on a lot of history that most people get as they're growing up, which I'll expand more on why I was outside of public schooling after the 7th grade sometime. But part of this project is me learning more about history so that I can understand historical events in proper context. And fiction is a really great way to navigate that, actually. Just like science fiction is a way that people have traditionally been able to examine social forces, or to let their imagination go on the possibilities of what could happen if people were to get along well enough and create a utopia, or if people were allowed to remain unchecked, much like we have seen in human history, especially the last 150 years, how bad things can get, and remind us that we don't have to live under terrible circumstances like we see sometimes. Like the amount of police related shootings that occur. I'm somebody who has been in a mental health episode and non-violently been running from the police and threatened to be tased. And I stopped because I was more afraid of having heart failure as somebody who's a cardiological patient. And, being caught up in the moment that I was in, experiencing the reality that I was experiencing. And people shouldn't be shot for compliance. It should be self-defense, that those levels of force should be used. But that's, some of the great ways that fiction can help us explore things. And I've also done the Chronicles of Narnia, which is written around the context of the Second World War and England's involvement in it in the mid and late 30s, where the children have to leave London, which is a significant military target, to go into the English countryside. And that was another thing that was being done a lot, and especially for Jewish children. Um, they would be sent off to live with host families who would pretend that this wasn't a Jew that was living with them, but a distant niece or nephew. That's some of the underplayed parts of history. Like, fuck the dates of battles, really. We need to learn about the beautiful ways that humanity fights to protect each other, because that's where the beauty is. Outside of material motivations, um, people do some beautiful things for each other, and that's what I like to bring out, and that's what I like to focus on in my life. It gives me some peace. So, uh, finally, there's an extemporaneous video from me. I really enjoy having the followers that I do. It makes me feel really good because I like sharing, but I'm also immensely introverted. So this is a two-way communication that feels like a one-way communication, and it's easier for me to relax and open up. So I hope you are doing great in your life. If you ever want to reach out and talk to me, or if you have recommendations on books that you would like me to read, I love to hear from people. I haven't heard too much except a little bit back in the comments, which means a lot to me. So I will see you soon. Bye.